Okay, watch your language, Gary.
Okay.
Weird, he didn't warn me.
We'll get started. Review of the minutes. I obviously didn't have the minutes assembled. What you got in email was the full transcription of last meeting. So for that, we'll just wait till we get the abbreviated minutes assembled and we can approve that. The subcommittee reports, Nikki, as far as historical research, I know you've been working on a few more things yet, but
really all I have is just that I need to get with
Andy.
Yeah, to get a little more direction. I do have access to National Guard World War II records on microfilm. And so if we have anybody, we come across anybody that's World War II and older, I may have access to records that otherwise might not be available elsewhere. But with that, access is very limited. It's kind of under lock and key, and the person with the key only works part-time. So, but yeah, surely. So I can work with her, and if we have anything that we need to go further back on, I have access to that. Okay. As far as National Guard records.
The one question that I would have, and it's going to take some time to do, but the stuff that's compiled right now, fabulous for the war history, but it'd be nice to have personal stories in there. There was some tidbits on their family in there yet too, to bring them more to life. So that's one ask, and I know that's not going to be an overnight thing.
Yeah, I think Andy and I just need to meet and just kind of get back on the same page.
Yeah, he's been saying the same thing. So just the fact of, I don't know how often his work schedule is. Where are we at here? So what we have, oops. So right now, I didn't keep track of the original counts, but World War I, we got 51 names. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them are new or not on the current roster. No, I take that back. 6, 16. Correct, for World War I. But as I say that, we're still vetting them out to confirm if they qualify for the criteria that we set up. No, there's more yet. 16, sorry. Let me blow this up. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 20, 21 for World War I. World War II, we have 88 names rostered now. 1, 2, 3. I count as correct, there's 14 new names identified. Korean War, 14 names rostered. I'm sorry, 14 names identified now, of which 2 are new names identified. Vietnam War, we have 11 names. 1 is new, but that one we know is not eligible. And then Global War on Terrorism, there's 2 names, 1 of which is a new one to consider. And I've been using this as part of my presentation, but what I also did, and I can send you guys this update. I put an asterisk for those that are identified as existing on the roster. Put a plus sign indicating those that are missing in action. Remains never recovered.
Okay.
And hashtag for those that are identified as prisoners of war that died as prisoners of war.
Okay.
And then the other coincidence with this is we have 2 sets of brothers, both in World War II. Screen. Okay, so yeah, if you and Andy want to touch base, like I said, the question is if we can get some more personal information on each of these. But part of that is, again, working with the parameters and the criteria subcommittee is going through each of them and confirm, okay, yes, this one meets criteria, this one meets criteria. Because there are a few, how many, I don't know. There are a few that don't meet the criteria for various reasons. And then that's where we're trying to get a date pinned down with the 3 of you guys.
So I've kind of started backwards, just
Going back.
Yep. Just because there's fewer names. You know what I
Well,
mean?
again, I have all the files that these guys have assembled that have all their war history in there.
Okay.
How they perished. So that's an easy review because everything's right there.
Yep.
With the exception
So
of
I've
a
just
couple
been
that,
concentrating on the ones that are the newer ones, like Master Sergeant McCowan, who is the new one. So everything I have found, he died of natural causes.
his heart was turned upside down because of a IED.
Was
He
really?
died, yep. He died in front of a VA clinic.
Okay.
And
See,
when it just, that was that
And
one
that's
piece that
gonna
I
be
uncovered.
Yeah.
That's gonna.
But again, that's got to get
key.
communicated. It's got to be discussed. It's got to get
Right,
vetted out.
yep. Because that was, everything I found online said that he died of natural causes at a hospital.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And that's the information that's hard to get is whether it's
Especially the
connection.
newer.
Yeah.
The newer ones are gonna be.
Then you deal with HIPAA and you don't know that stuff.
Yeah.
It's hard to get that information.
There was one article, and I can't remember if I forwarded it to you and Andy, but there was one article that I found that actually said this is what happened.
You did, however, how much of that can we
Validate.
Validate.
Right.
And that's gonna be that's where the HIPAA is gonna get in the way of a lot of stuff.
Right.
Now, these more recent ones, as far as conflicts concerned, I mean, he's from Bismarck,
New Salem.
New Salem.
Wow.
Yeah.
They say Bismarck.
Yeah.
We're all Bismarck.
Yeah.
We're all Bismarck on Google.
I know his mom.
Is that something
related to his mom?
I mean,
Foxy.
Yep.
Is that something, my own concern with reaching out would be you'd have to tell them why you're reaching out. And then if it's determined that they don't, then
Upset
you just
feelings.
reopen an old wound.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I was going to call Foxy and see how much information she could give me, but I want to be careful there too.
Well, and that's just it, because we don't want to open up. I mean, these family members have dealt with something that,
Few people deal with.
very few people deal with. And, he's at the VA because he knows something's wrong, and then this happens. How do you? So, by the way, was just wondering,
Yeah.
because then if it's determined that he doesn't meet the criteria, then we just rip the Band-Aid off and they've got to deal with it, and they're basically we're walking away and they're just sitting there bleeding.
And
so
Correct. Yeah, well, again, getting with the crew and getting this hammered out.
Pretty much open. I mean, once everybody else,
Well, Larry is too now that summer's winding
Yeah.
down, and Stacy, he's still working, but seeing what his schedule is. So, again, for the subcommittees, we know where that's all working. The fundraising subcommittee, Gary's on the horn here too. We haven't tackled that because a lot of that's in this discussion tonight. So one thing as far as the final solicitation list, again, that's to reach out to each of you, as I pushed out, so maybe threw some thoughts back. What I did do is just last night, I purchased a list from the Secretary of State's office. The lists that I requested. Didn't save it. But it's corporations domestic, corporations foreign, LLPs domestic, LLCs domestic. And I think that's I stopped there. So I had that download. I just got home today from obviously days worth of work, so I haven't had a chance to sort that through yet. That's the intention, to sort that through, hone in on Morgan County, particularly Burley County and the area. And then major corporations that have an impact nation statewide, and get that list solidified. Also with that, I have the roster of gaming licenses. The current roster is dated 10/8. This is a roster from June. You have it just for information's sake. I highlighted the ones that I plan to address too. And then also a roster of all the gaming sites. So cross-check that with the gaming organizations, and again, prepare solicitations to those entities. But the other part of that is, yeah, wow, there's a lot, there's 16 pages,
crazy.
something like that, 12 pages,
That's available, I think,
the Attorney General's website.
website.
Yeah, I just downloaded the most current one just minutes ago. But the other part on that is, again, what information we want to put in the donor packets. Obviously, a cover letter, something that can address the facts, obviously renderings, but also the importance is to having that audience with them. So that in the format of the letter is going to say, here's the project, here's the ask, we want to come talk to you.
Do we have an estimate of how much it's gonna cost?
Well, fundraising wise, we set that $1 million threshold. So we get more than that, wonderful. Again, we won't know the exact cost until we got to get $500,000 in the bank first before we can start the next phase. Yep. And part of that obviously is spending the money to get the architect's rendering, or not the rendering, but to get the architect's estimate before we can even go to bid. And then once we go to bid, then of course that's when we harden the numbers, because that's the actuals.
Yep.
Because sometimes the architects or the engineers estimate will be less than actual bid. Sometimes it'll be more than what the bid is. So you end up saving money. But that's where we're sitting at. Right now, as far as contributions in play, I got one corporation that is promising 5,000 to start. And then we have the one veteran service organization that has promised 5,000. Nothing is in a checkbook as yet. But again, when we get into some of these, the donor packet, it's got to be decent. I mean, we're asking for, 6 digits, so it's got to be presentable. And obviously that's going to come with a cost. So that's where we talked last time, making sure we have at least $10,000 in the checkbook before we start spending money. And again, so as we progress, again, looking at thinking you through, what is it that we want that packet to entail? short, sweet, to the point, but impactful. That would make them want to ask for that audience. Because again, we're looking at, I'll just pick on an obvious MDU Foundation. We want to get an audience with them. Shoot, maybe that can, with Knife River, that can cover all the concrete. Food for thought. And part of that too is looking at the in-kind. Granted, we don't have an exact, but we do know that we want this. We do know we want this. We want this. We want this.
Yep.
So identifying who those vendors are, who those businesses are. We want radiant floor heat. Okay. Who are those businesses? Northern Plains, Advanced Mechanical, so on and so on. The wall panels themselves, sign companies. So we've already talked to them, but just continue that. So that's dialogue on the donor packet. And then speaker opportunities, that's basically looking at every community organization, every speaking engagement, whether it's city commissions, whether it's Toastmasters, Optimists, Kiwanis, whatever that entity might be, veteran service organizations. I prepared a slideshow that's roughly 15-minute presentation. I have talking points that are associated with each and every slide, so we can all speak on the same language.
Yep.
But again, getting that list identified, who these entities are, so we can get on their schedules. I did. There was a regional meeting for the Knights of Columbus. Spoke to basically every council in this part of Morton County in one meeting. And obviously the support was 100% with that crew, but that type of a setting.
I know that the coming up on Veterans Day, there's quite a few Veterans Day programs coming up. Is that something that we could maybe hand out some kind of flyer with that with information on it and how to donate?
Good. I'll have to get for a simple trifold. Just getting something created.
Just something created, maybe with a QR code where they can donate.
Well, we have the website. Of course, working on a whole new website for Morton County, but been working with Heidi, our PIO, revamping. It's now referring to it as the Morton County Memorial Plaza.
Okay.
But that website, we have the framework. We're just working on a few coding things. And then that will be going live, but I do have that QR code already for that domain.
Okay. Because if we could, like the Ambits, for example, we always have 300 people come to that
luncheon,
that lunch,
Yep.
that event.
Yep. And then the morning
that
at
would be a good place to hit up a lot of people.
the morning at the Heritage Center too. And who's the host on that one this year?
And the MC.
For at the Heritage Center?
Not at the Heritage Center, just the Ambits.
Okay. See who the host is at the Heritage Center, because again, same story as trying to get a plug in. I double checked my calendar, but Mary and I are heading to my Marine Corps reunion that weekend. But trying to have, I created a trifold, easy enough. Come up with trifold real easy.
I probably will be going to the Heritage Center with the Honor Guard. And then heading over to the Ambets afterwards.
Just let me know. That's the one thing where I work. I get Veterans Day off. I don't make.
No.
Okay,
there, center, whatever.
Letter. Back sheet.
those would be just good opportunities just to get rid of it.
Well, it's the prime time of year,
Absolutely.
and that same thing for the contribution is
November 1st through Windscaping Arts,
February.
February 2nd or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's great for businesses because wrapping up the end of the year, they make the
Yep.
donation the next year and they've got their.
That's why it's got to get out. That's why it's got to get out. But again, for all other speaker presentations, we'll latch into that. We'll definitely latch into that, but all other speaker presentation opportunities, rack your head together. You got an idea for something, shoot me a text, shoot me an email, whatever it might be. But along with that, jump down here at bullet, but media packages. So pick on the Morton County News Journal, Hebron Herald, Ganala Times. Obviously can't do a double truck, can't do a two page, but getting a full page and running that a little bit more than just a one-time shot. Where are you guys sitting at for putting Veterans Day production to bed? You're not involved in that part of it? Okay.
We would want to talk to Jill or Ann.
Okay. Because again, the target would be getting a full page ad in that time slot and running it a couple days before, well, a week before or a week after. Keep moving that forward, but identifying formats to, maybe I can work with one and do all the graphics with them and replicate for the others. The only is the Glen Ellen does a larger format for their newsprint versus Hebron Herald and Morton County Journal are the same size. So art-wise, it would all match up. But that is part of that outreach need. So I will call them. And again, the other dialogue is Gary and I, we talked about this within committee, but we haven't really come up with anything concrete. But a visual presentation that can show where we are with donations. What would that look like? You got, the standard of a thermometer bubble as a standard, but obviously do something that's a little bit relevant to this. So brainstorming on that.
Okay. My question I have, Ray, you were
Yeah.
talking about having money in the checkbook to start some of the packets and what we're going to put out to businesses and that. So how do we get that going? That's my question for getting that money, because some of the businesses, even like Scott Stevens with ID, and with my son-in-law Don, at ID, but kind of leaving that alone, even where you were at with Dale Polke and all that, but where
we can start those, Gary.
But where you were saying like we're all on the same page, and then to talk to the businesses and the different tiers. I was doing that earlier today.
Yep.
One of them is Railway Credit Union. Back when I was at the Penn, I was part of a union. I'm switching all my accounts from Dakota Community, who we got our home loan through, to Railway. At a point where you said, and you living in Morton County your whole life, I mean, I've just been here since '93, so having those contacts, but not putting everything on you or where you'd go, talking with these, businesses and such, for having 2-person teams. But what even where I've talked to some private donors, whether it's through the parish, through the Knights, my father-in-law retired from DGC, where giving just, and we want those too, right? Like
correct
donors, even if it's $500 or $1,000.
Correct. Yep.
But where from there, besides, like you were talking about the QR code with it, when it's established where we can have someone who wants to just write a check, and is it Morton County Treasurer, put, the Morton.
It's the payment's gonna be set up as Morton County Memorial Plaza.
Okay. So that would be in the 2 line, Morton County.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And
Yep.
then however that would be submitted, I mean, to the courthouse, mailed it in, or to
Yeah, well, it'll be to the courthouse mailing address, but the check would be paid to Morton County Memorial Plaza.
and that was my question. At what point do we want to get, and that's where I'm thinking with private donors to try to get to that, you were saying 10,000. So we would have those to do the packets, to have the, so we're all on the same page with our presentation, whether it's to private donors or businesses. So that's where I'm looking at the next steps of telling, letting
Right.
these people know where to submit your money to, basically. But
Right.
not having because I've explained to them, and obviously with family, friends, parishioners, you gave that presentation to the tri-council meeting at the Knights, talking with some of those, and those are pretty much my connections, the parish, Knights of Columbus, and then, what I know of businesses. Like I said, a lot of the businesses, you know, well, probably better than I. Scott, I think it's Scott Russell, he took over for TJ.
Mm-hmm.
He's very difficult to get a hold of because he gives us donations.
Well, Cloverdale would actually, a lot of these entities, and I'll pick on Cloverdale particularly, that will go to their marketing department.
Okay.
Just an FYI.
Yeah.
Many of the larger corporations like that, that's where it will route through. Basin Electric, they have a marketing department. It would route through that marketing department, and they would make a recommendation to the CFO or whomever it might be, would bring it to the full board.
Okay, that's good to know. I didn't where
Yep.
their department and just, I guess, contacting, because they'll give up for a pantry, and that's what I know of Cloverdale. But we're not stepping on your toes, but not having where you're, where you said about 2 people going to them, where, can the people, if they want to just write a check and mail it in, can we start that then, or are we waiting?
Yes.
We could start that.
Yes.
Morton County.
Yep. Been working with our county treasurer. She's been setting up. Actually, we're setting up a PayPal account on the website.
Okay.
So people can do credit card transactions, and she has an account set up. I'll confirm where she's at with that, but she's been working on getting an account set up, and that account, what she's trying to target, is some sort of an interest-bearing account for this. It might take 2 years to get the funds that we need. Time will tell, but that is, again, that little extra boost.
Right. Okay. I'll kind of watch for that, but for me, in my mind, that's where I'm at. Let's get to that, obviously $1 million, but 10,000, so we can have that, that money to do, the packets and the pamphlets that we want to give out, and, have a uniform presentation for whether it's a personal donor that might give $2,000,
Right.
a business.
Right.
So, okay, that helps me. Thanks.
And then hitting these veteran service organizations, Nick, you can understand this, but a lot of them don't meet in the summertime for various reasons. They're farming or whatever the case is. So now fall is hit, so we can start getting that circuit, if you will, start getting on their agendas and presentations out to them. And many of these veteran service organizations also have gaming. And again, part of that pitch is doing it a quarterly. They submit quarterly, but every quarter be on their donation roster, if you will, and more than just 1,000 at a crack. So how I would, as we discussed last meeting, $1 million has a lot of zeros, but you start breaking it down. And you start getting these large corporations, and who knows, we might be successful in getting 2 at 500,000. Very possible. Or breaking down even further, it might be 10 at $100,000. That's very possible. But working that payment in a manner that's palatable to them, that's why we have to have that conversation with them. One part is, of course, presenting the idea, and the want, the need. But the other part is working with them financially on what's going to work for their business. That'll work for this end result. So basically, if you have that opportunity to have a meeting with them, that door is already open. Just how can you enhance the relationship to make it beneficial for both sides? But I put it on the two of you and Scott particularly. You want to start working with that one lead.
Yep.
Start.
Yep.
Whatever you might want from me, whether it's just get printings done, let me know. But you know, start working on the soft sell.
Yep.
And in the meantime, the secretary identifying and the gaming list. Like I said, just getting, like I said, in that. Where each format, because it's probably to digest business or wide or statewide organization, just more tangible to help with the mind as you're trying to identify X, Y, and Z. Again, the donation packet, I'll start working on the letter itself. But again, what is it that you feel is relevant? We don't need a whole lot of stuff in there. Obviously, short, sweet, to the point. But renderings, obviously very important. Some sort of a fact sheet, maybe just the roster itself. How we come up with the roster, maybe a couple of stories of a few people within to help amplify, to bring it home. And again, a trifold, I can easily work up a trifold. I think we're home this weekend, so we can get something done. And then asking everyone again, the speaker list, who, what organizations, what entity, when do they meet? Start getting that calendar put together so we can start hitting these people and getting that word out. That includes broadcast media, the morning talk shows on the radio as an example. So working every facet, if obviously we're trying to get as much free as we can because it helps us further our message, but knowing that there's times that we have to pay, and that's where I'm going to target on newsprint as an example. I'm working with them to get that campaign as well as we get into the veteran recognition period, because that'd be very important. Anything else? Then next question is, when do we want to meet again? Do you want to do monthly, or again, the focus is going to be on fundraising, but we know if that's going to be the focus, the attendance, just from experience.
Before Veterans Day, though.
If I could get
some of those trifles, I could put them in the programs for the vets.
What are you looking at for counts?
300.
You know who is hosting the Heritage Center one?
So this year, the Heritage Center is it's no particular. It's actually
It's changed.
so it's a quartet out of Minot. That's the main. I shared it on the MPET's Facebook.
I think that's where I saw it.
Salute to our veterans program.
Was thinking too was University of Mary's doing that World War One. What do they term that? Wonderful production.
Yep. So they're also doing a 250th birthday event at the Heritage Center November 2nd.
Oh, that's part of that 250.
Yep, it's by the Daughters of the American Revolution is
Mhm.
putting it together. It does not
too.
say who is in charge of it. It just says Minot Heritage Singers.
Yep,
Guest
that's right.
speakers. It doesn't say anything.
That's what threw me off is Minot, but wait a minute. Heritage Center. Wait a minute.
Yep. Yeah. I'm sure I'll be there in honor guard uniform.
Mhm. Alright, so I'm sure Jim Nelson would probably know.
I know nothing.
The World War One program that University of Mary's doing, North Dakota Voices, the
That's
collaboration between its history and theater departments.
wonderful production. They did that during the World War One centennial commemoration. Wonderful production. It's just they have excerpts from letters written home to North Dakota veterans or from North Dakota service members that were in World War One, and they're reading the excerpts as they're doing a scene.
That is my
Demise.
Everybody's got, almost every veteran has a time frame in military history that they're just fascinated by, and that's mine. World War One is just
I love World War II.
it's insane.
Well, Casey Beck and I, because he was part of that then. He was in college then. That's when I was doing the Marine House renovation. And he uncovered these 16 North Dakota Marines and the whole story with them. So we created a whole special presentation on these 16 North Dakota Marines that were in World War One. And then that was at the Marine House. And then this was also unveiling at the same time frame too. So we took in that, and that was just marvelous production.
So have you guys ever heard When the Guns Fell Silent? The audio at the end of World War. So it was, I forget the exact circumstances, but they were basically, they had drums buried underground, right? Because they were tunneling under each other's trenches and blowing them up, right? And this is the sound. And crazy. And coming from a guy that my combat was short, quick, kind of to the point. Nothing was, I think the longest firefight I was in was 30 minutes. And usually rotary aircraft came in and just ended the whole argument, or a 50 cal. But how deafening that silence had to have been, is just nothing but chaos all around you. And then and then seconds later, birds are chirping.
Same story, Christmas Eve, 1915, whatever the year was, the Christmas Eve truce.
Yep.
Before America got involved, but again, same thing. On that same note, though, if you remember, They Shall Not Grow Old. Remember that movie?
Yep.
That was during the centennial commemoration, World War I. Again, another fabulous production. They took all these old videos, and there's actually one segment in there where this officer was given a speech, and they found the speech, and they were able to match it up exactly to the proper time. So as he's speaking the speech, somebody's narrating it.
Oh,
I mean, just again, the whole production on that one. And they did another follow-up with that, or I think it was right at the end, of how they made it all happen. And saw it on the big screen, watched it at home a few times. Just marvelous production.
And I think World War it's so much because you can't find any information on it. It's it's weird because you look at World War II, right? We didn't think about keeping any of that equipment. Right? Things have just kind of fallen by the wayside. Now we've got one of everything from the Korean War, from World War, or from Vietnam, but even World War II, we never thought of the historical value of it, right? And I don't think anybody does in the moment. I mean, I was literally standing there when everybody's watching CNN and they're pulling down the statue of Saddam. I'm in that crowd.
I remember exactly where I was at.
Looking around like it's 100 yards to the next American, and I'm surrounded by Iraqis. Like, I don't know if any of these, I'm looking at my buddy like, hey,
Yeah.
I was at Fort Lewis, Washington at the dental clinic when that happened.
But you don't, I came home and people were talking about, when they pulled the statues down, I'm like, that was a Tuesday. What about it? Like to me, it wasn't significant. What was significant to me was when they took the Saddam heads off of the palace. Because when that was the movement. That was well, now it's what, the U.S. Embassy.
Right.
But that's kind of where we all pulled up, right? And that's where the first chow halls were. First thing we did was hire some Iraqis to fix the pool, because that was our MWR. And at first, I mean, when you're there, things are like, it's so surreal. And you would freak out when you saw the Saddam heads. And then after a while, you were like, oh, Saddam heads, we're good. We're safe now. The vest would come open if you're riding shotgun in the Hummer. It was like, because you knew you were in the green zone. But that was significant. They pulled Saddam statues down everywhere.
Yeah.
That wasn't significant. And you come home and that was like the big talk was, man, when they pulled those things down. And I'm like, I was there. But I don't think anybody thinks of the significance of it. And that's like another. Did you ever see? It came out on HBO, and that's when I figured out I actually had a problem. But it was like the history of PTSD.
Oh.
Did you see? Oh my God! And you're reading letters all the way back to the Revolutionary War, and I think that's when it first hit me that the equipment changes, the terrain changes, but the warrior never does. These guys that were coming home, and suicide's been an issue for veterans forever, but these guys were coming home. Their suicide letters were the same things that were going through my head 200 years later.
Yeah.
Like, that's when I went,
Yep.
hundreds of years later.
back then, I also put together a suicide presentation. And as we were delivering it, it was Stephanie and I, as we were delivering it, it was more of not so much on the suicide aspect of it, but more so on the veteran understanding, the family understanding the veteran for who they have become. Don't change them. Well, they are who they are for what they've experienced.
That was
Understand
that was one of the hardest things to understand. And I still, I mean, I haven't been on meds in 5 years. Because with PTSD, you have anxiety and then depression, right? So I'm basically taking uppers and downers. I was a robot. I wasn't angry. I never got frustrated, but I never laughed. I mean, it's just and every time I'd go to the VA and I would talk to them about, I want to learn my triggers. I want to cut my medication. They'd up my prescription.
Yeah.
They'd up the dosage.
Sounds like a beach.
So I finally, basically, thank God for all those blogs and groups out there, because I started looking and I was on some pretty good stuff and I tried to quit cold turkey. 14 hours later, I'm a puddle in the corner in the dark, just, and I still have my days, but the hardest thing was getting the wife to understand that this is what I am now. And I don't need you to fix me. You don't need to understand. I don't want you to understand why I'm this way. That's why I went, was so that you wouldn't have to understand why I'm the way I am now. Just accept it and love me for what I am now. And the rest will fall.
And now she
place.
takes medication.
And now she takes medication.
Well, there's-
Nice, Ray, nice.
Have you read these books at all?
So if we want to meet for
Oh, yeah.
They're good.
They're very good.
before Veterans Day, that basically puts us at November 3rd, 4th. 3rd is a Monday, 4th is a Tuesday.
Yeah, I think we should. We can kind of finalize everything.
Gary, what's your comments? What's your thoughts? I agree, but next meeting, again,
Yep, third
focusing.
sounds good.
Okay,
November 4th, we don't have any elections, do we?
No.
Okay.
no, not this year.
Yeah, I'm good either the 3rd or the 4th.
Okay,
Monday might work better for me.
okay. And I'll set that up. And again, focus will be final visuals, if you will, for print product. And hopefully I'll get some semblance of a decent solicitation letter put together. Renderings, just picking out which renderings will be serving us better than others. And for whatever context for fact sheets. The roster is a very important piece of that.
Yep.
And maybe that roster is a part 100%. The roster
I think
itself.
so.
I use that for all the
I think it needs to
presentations.
be in there. And and because we can use that as a talking point when we meet with them. One of the reasons we're doing this is look at all these ones that aren't on there, that should be on there. I mean, we have an advantage of living in a very patriotic state.
Yeah.
So,
but even when we went to New Salem, when we went to Hebron, when we went to Flasher, Mandan, I made sure that roster was printed large font that people can read it.
mm-hmm. I think it's a good idea. We pull a name or two
and highlight them.
Kind of give
highlight their story,
a backstory, and a lot of times names on a wall are just names on a wall. For us, it's different no matter where we go. Every small town I went to in South Dakota, We were at Sturgis. I've got, I don't know, a dozen pictures of their little Gold Star family
Mhm.
monument on the main drag in Sturgis.
Yep.
But it's, for us, it's different. We see those names and our brain makes them real for us because we're veterans. But for a lot of civilians, names on a wall are just names on a wall.
Or we transpose that name for that name.
Yep. Oh yeah, a lot. I bet this guy was just like.
Yep.
Yep. But for your average civilian, I think it's different. If your average American went to New York City and went to the 9/11 memorial, that would hit different, right? Because that's our JFK, our Martin Luther King. But for them to walk up to a veterans memorial, I don't think it hits them quite the same way. So I definitely think we need to pull a couple of names and highlight them, especially if we can find a couple of names that we've got good story on.
Something just to kind of
Just by the throat.
a little bit of, put a little bit of feel into it.
Yep.
It has
exactly.
to. It has to.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's just a name on the
Yep.
wall. And it's not.
That's why we've put a year into this.
Tell that to the family.
Yep, exactly. Remember that next time you're pissed off because McDonald's took 7 minutes to get you your food through in the drive-thru. Beat 7 hours in a bread line.
Yep.
You're welcome.
Yep. Okay, so we'll target on November 3rd, Monday, 6 o'clock. I'd do it at the courthouse because again, for public meeting purposes, but I'd rather have some place that we can sit.
Yeah, and they're gonna be. Oh, sit here.
Well, we can sit here. This actually works better than downstairs because that damn front AC unit that blows right down on top of you.
Yep.
You don't have to get checked in there. I'm good.
Yep. Okay. Anything else for you, Gary?
No, I'm good.
Okay, then I will push out an announcement to everyone else and I'll get cracking on my homework tonight too. But asking everyone else to work on their homework just
Yep.
the same.
I'll start with marketing.
Yep. Beyond that, we'll call this meeting adjourned.